I watched Mom hang the banner across our living room, my stomach twisting into knots. Congratulations, Madison, State Talent Show finalist, it proclaimed in glittering gold letters. My sister preened underneath it, practicing her violin piece for the 100th time today, each note cutting through me like glass. Sweetie, can you move? Mom said, not even looking at me. You're blocking the light from Madison's practice space. I stepped aside, clutching my phone where the email glowed. Congratulations! You have been selected as the National Youth Piano Champion. I'd won. Actually won. The biggest competition in the country, and my family didn't even know I'd entered. Because 3 months ago, when I'd asked Mom to drive me to the regional qualifiers, the same day as Madison's local talent show, she'd laughed. Actually laughed. Honey, your sister needs us there. This is her moment. You can enter piano competitions anytime. Except I couldn't. That regional was the only qualifier for nationals. Miss it, and you'd have to wait another year. I'd begged Dad. He'd sighed and handed me $20. Take an Uber. We need to support your sister. So I had. I'd taken a 2-hour Uber ride with money I'd saved from tutoring. I'd competed with blistered fingers because I'd been practicing on our barely functioning keyboard in the basement, while Madison got the grand piano in the music room, and I'd won. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that makes my chest tight and my vision blur. I'd won before, in my last life. I was 34 when I died. A car accident on a rainy Tuesday. My mind full of regrets. But the biggest regret wasn't my failed marriage or my mediocre job. It was this moment. This exact moment 12 years ago in my original timeline when I'd let them convince me I didn't matter. In my first life, I'd believed them. I'd skipped the regional competition. I'd sat in that audience and watched Madison place third in a local talent show while my dreams shriveled and died. I'd spent the next 20 years watching her succeed, always with my parents' full support, while I faded into the background playing piano at hotel bars for spare change, wondering what I could have been. But then I woke up at 16, the morning of my birthday, with 34 years of memories flooding back. And this time, I made a different choice. Emma! Dad's voice boomed from the kitchen. Did you pick up Madison's dress from the dry cleaners? Yes, I called back, even though resentment burned in my throat. Mom emerged, eyes sparkling. Oh, Emma, you're such a good sister. Madison's going to look beautiful at the state finals. Did you see they're expecting talent scouts? This could change her whole life. I knew the truth, though, I remembered. Madison would place 5th at state finals. Respectable, but not life-changing. She'd go to a decent music school, have a decent career teaching violin to middle schoolers. She'd be happy enough. But in this life, I wouldn't be the one playing happy birthday at chain restaurants while she got everything she wanted. The nationals were in 2 weeks. The same weekend as Madison's state finals, and my family still didn't know. The abuse started when I was 7. Not abuse in the way people usually think of it. No hitting, no screaming. Just neglect so thorough, so complete, that it hollowed me out from the inside. Madison was born when I was 2. From the moment she emerged perfect and screaming, I became invisible. Mom would coo over her for hours while I sat with my plastic toys, waiting for someone to notice I existed. Dad would rush home from work, calling out, "Where's my little Madison?" as he walked past me in the hallway. By the time I was 5, I'd learned that the only way to get attention was to be useful, to fetch things, to help, to never complain. When I was 7, I heard piano music drifting from the community center. I stood outside the window for an hour, watching the teacher's hands dance across the keys. Something in my chest opened up, a hunger so fierce it scared me. I asked Mom if I could take lessons. "Piano lessons are expensive, honey," she'd said, distracted, while Madison screamed about wanting a new toy. "Maybe when you're older." Madison started violin lessons 3 months later. "She's so talented," Mom gushed. "The teacher says she's gifted." I taught myself piano from YouTube videos on the family computer, late at night when everyone was asleep. I'd put on headphones and watch the tutorials, moving my fingers in the air and memorizing the patterns. When I was 10, Grandma died and left me her old keyboard. It was dusty and half the keys stuck, but it was mine. I set it up in the basement and practiced for hours every day after school, my fingers flying over the broken keys, imagining they were perfect. Mom donated it to Goodwill when I was 13 while I was at school. "You never played it anymore," she said when I came home to find the empty space. And Madison needed room for her new amplifier. I had played it every single day. That was the moment in my first life when something inside me broke. I stopped trying, stopped hoping my parents would see me. I let myself disappear. But in my second life, my second chance, I remembered that pain with crystal clarity. And I remembered something else. A week before I died, I'd been cleaning out Grandma's old storage unit. In a dusty box, I'd found letters, dozens of them, addressed to me, dating back to when I was 12. Letters from music schools offering scholarships. Letters from competition organizers following up on my video submissions. Letters from Grandma's old friend, a retired concert pianist, offering to teach me for free. All returned to sender, all intercepted. There was a note in Mom's handwriting clipped to the stack. "Emma doesn't need these distractions. Madison is the talented one." I'd died 2 days later, that note still burning in my mind. So when I woke up at 16, the morning after Madison's regional victory and my own missed opportunity, I made a decision. I would not be erased again. I would not be the invisible sister who existed only to make Madison shine brighter. I would win. And I would make sure everyone knew, but I'd be smart about it. Strategic, because this time I remembered exactly how the next 2 years would play out. I knew which teachers would favor me, which competitions I could win, which scholarships I could earn. I knew Madison's weaknesses, her stage fright, her tendency to crack under pressure, her reliance on our parents' constant validation. And I knew exactly how to make my family see what they'd thrown away. The night I turned 16, again, I lay in my narrow bed and plotted. First, I'd need money. In my last life, I'd spent my 20s broke and desperate. This time, I'd remembered something. Cryptocurrency. I knew which coins would explode over the next 6 months. I took my birthday money, $50 from Grandma before she died, and invested it online using a fake ID I'd made with tutorials from my adult life. Within 3 months, I'd turned $50 into $15,000. Second, I'd need training. Real training. I found the retired concert pianist, Grandma's friend, Mrs. Chen, and showed up at her door with my keyboard and my dreams. "I remember you," she'd said, her eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Your grandmother talked about you all the time, said you had magic in your fingers." "Will you teach me?" I'd asked. She'd studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Come Tuesdays and Thursdays. Don't tell your family." I didn't. For 3 months, while my family obsessed over Madison's talent show preparation, I took the bus across town twice a week. Mrs. Chen was brutal, demanding, perfect. She pushed me until my fingers bled, until I could play Rachmaninoff in my sleep, until every note was exactly right. "You have something your sister will never have," Mrs. Chen told me once. "You play like someone who knows what it means to lose everything, that kind of passion. It's rare." The regional qualifier was on a Saturday. Madison's local talent show was the same day. They'd moved it at the last minute, and my parents had already bought non-refundable tickets and a hotel room for her. When I'd asked them to take me instead, Mom had touched my shoulder like I was a particularly dim child. "Emma, sweetheart, this is Madison's dream. You know how important this is to her. You can do your little piano thing anytime." My little piano thing. I'd wanted to scream. To show them my practice videos, my secret savings, Mrs. Chen's glowing assessment. But I remembered what happened in my first life when I'd tried to compete with Madison for attention. Nothing. Absolutely nothing changed. So I'd nodded, smiled, and booked that Uber. The regional competition was in a massive concert hall 3 hours away. I'd never played in front of a real audience before, not beyond Mrs. Chen and a handful of nursing home residents I'd performed for to build confidence. My hands shook as I walked onto that stage. But then my fingers touched the keys, and everything else disappeared. I played Chopin's Ballad No. 1 in G minor, the piece Mrs. Chen said was impossible for someone my age. I played it like I was exorcising demons, like every note was a year of being invisible, of watching Madison get everything while I got nothing. When I finished, the silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then the audience erupted. I won, first place, by unanimous decision. The judges told me I'd be competing at nationals in 6 weeks. They told me I had a gift. They told me I was the most technically proficient 16-year-old pianist they'd seen in a decade. I'd taken an Uber home, my fingers still trembling, the winner's medal heavy in my backpack. My family was at the hotel celebrating Madison's third-place ribbon. When they came home Sunday night, they didn't ask about my weekend. Mom launched into a detailed recap of Madison's performance. How the judges had been impressed, how she'd gotten standing ovations, she hadn't. How she was definitely going to make it big. I went to my room and stared at my medal, hidden in my desk drawer. That was 3 months ago. Now the nationals were in 13 days, and my family still didn't know. The turning point came on a Tuesday night. I was in the basement, practicing on the new electric keyboard I'd bought with my crypto money, when I heard Madison crying upstairs. Her state finals were in 3 days, and she was falling apart. "I can't do it," she sobbed. "There's too much pressure. What if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough?" Mom's soothing voice. "You are good enough, baby. You're the most talented girl in the state." Dad's firm voice. "We've given you everything, Madison. The best teachers, the best instrument, all our time and energy. You're going to make us proud." Something clicked in my chest. They'd given her everything. Everything that should have been shared. Every opportunity, every dollar, every ounce of attention and love. And she was cracking under the weight of it, while I'd built myself from nothing, from secret lessons and stolen practice time and sheer force of will. And I was about to compete at a level she'd never reach. I pulled out my phone and opened the email I'd been sitting on for 2 weeks. The competition organizers wanted to do a feature story on me for their website. "Small Town Prodigy Rises to Nationals," they'd called it. They wanted photos, interviews, background information. They wanted to know my story. I'd been planning to keep quiet until after the competition, to let my family discover my success after the fact, when it was too late for them to steal my spotlight. But looking at that email, listening to Madison's theatrical sobs, and my parents' endless reassurance, I realized something. Why wait? I could do so much more damage, deliver so much more justice, if they knew beforehand. If they had to watch me succeed in real time, knowing they'd ignored me, knowing they'd chosen wrong. I started typing. First, I accepted the interview. I told them everything. The neglect, the invisible childhood, the way I'd taught myself, the way I'd competed alone. I made sure to mention that my family would be attending my sister's state competition instead of my nationals. "They don't know I'm competing," I told the journalist on the phone that night, my voice steady. "They never asked." The article went live 3 days later. I was scrolling through my phone at breakfast when Dad's phone buzzed. Then Mom's. Then Madison's. "Oh my God," Madison breathed, her face going pale. Mom grabbed her phone, reading frantically. Her face went from confused to shocked to pale. "Emma," she said slowly, Did you win a piano competition?" I took a bite of cereal. Several, actually. "It says here you're competing at nationals this weekend," Dad said, his voice tight. "The same weekend as Madison's state finals." "That's right." Mom's hand was shaking. "Why didn't you tell us?" I looked at her directly, really looked at her for the first time in years. "I did, 3 months ago. You said I could do my little piano thing anytime." "I didn't mean—" "It's okay," I said, and I meant it. The rage I'd carried for so long was transmuting into something colder, sharper. "I understand. Madison needed you. She always needs you." "That's not fair," Madison whispered. "I didn't know—" "You never asked." I stood, rinsing my bowl in the sink. "But it doesn't matter now. I'm competing on Saturday. I'll be gone most of the weekend." "But—" Mom stood too, her face crumpling. "Emma, we already have tickets to Madison's competition. The hotel is booked. We can't just—" "I know," I said calmly. "That's why I'm going alone. Same as regionals. Same as every step of this journey. It's fine. I'm used to it." The silence was deafening. I turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Mom? Those music school letters that came for me when I was 12? The scholarship offers? I know you sent them back. I know you told them I wasn't interested." Her face went white. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter. What matters is that I didn't need them. I didn't need any of you. I built this myself." I walked out, leaving them staring after me. My phone exploded over the next 3 days. The article went viral. Talented teen overcomes family neglect to reach nationals, read one headline. Sister of state finalist secretly competing at higher level, read another. The comments sections were brutal, eviscerated my parents, praised me, demanded to know how they could watch my competition. The competition organizers contacted me again. They wanted to live stream my performance. They expected tens of thousands of viewers. Mrs. Chen called me, her voice thick with pride. "You're going to show them," she said. "You're going to show everyone." My family tried to talk to me. Mom cornered me in my room Wednesday night, tears streaming down her face. "Emma, please, I didn't realize, I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," I said quietly. "There's a difference." "We can come to your competition," she said desperately. "We can cancel Madison's—" "No." The word was sharp. "Madison's been preparing for this for months. She deserves her moment. I don't want you there." "But Emma—" "I mean it, Mom. Don't come. Don't call. Don't pretend you suddenly care because the internet is watching. I'm going to win this competition, and I'm going to do it the same way I've done everything else. Alone." She left crying. Dad tried Thursday morning. "Sport? We need to talk about—" "Sport?" I laughed, the sound bitter. "You haven't called me that since I was 6. Since Madison was born and I stopped being your daughter and became her assistant instead." "That's not true." "Isn't it? When was the last time you came to anything of mine? When was the last time you asked about my day, my friends, my dreams? When was the last time you looked at me and saw a person instead of Madison's shadow?" He opened his mouth, closed it. He couldn't answer. Madison tried Friday night. She knocked on my door, her violin case in hand. "Emma, can we talk?" I let her in, curious. She sat on my bed, looking smaller than usual. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "I know you didn't." And that was the worst part. Madison wasn't evil. She wasn't cruel. She was just spoiled, oblivious, raised to believe she was the center of the universe because our parents had made her that. "I could skip state finals," she offered. "We could all come watch you instead." For a moment, just a moment, I felt the old Emma stir. The Emma who would have said yes, who would have been so grateful for this scrap of attention that she'd have forgiven everything. But I was 34 years old in a 16-year-old's body, and I remembered exactly where that road led. "No," I said. "This isn't about you coming to watch me. It's not about one weekend. It's about 16 years of being invisible. It's about every time you got a new violin while I practiced on a keyboard with broken keys. It's about every dinner where you talked for an hour about your day while no one asked about mine. It's about being erased so completely that Mom threw away my letters from music schools without even telling me they existed." Madison's eyes filled with tears. "But I didn't do those things. Mom and Dad, you benefited from them. Every single day you benefited from my erasure. You got the best teachers because there wasn't money for both of us. You got the best instrument because there wasn't room for both. You got their time, their attention, their love because they only had enough for one daughter. That's not my fault." "No," I agreed, "but it's not mine either, and I'm done paying for it." She left sobbing. I spent Friday night preparing. Not just my music. I had Chopin's Ballade and Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 memorized so completely I could play them in my sleep. But my appearance, my speech, everything. Because this wasn't just about winning anymore. This was about burning down the old Emma and rising from her ashes. This was about revenge. I took a car service to the Nationals, a luxury car service, paid for with my crypto money because I was done with Ubers and buses and making myself small. The competition was at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., the most prestigious venue in the country. The live stream had over 50,000 viewers waiting when I checked that morning. 50,000 people were going to watch me play. 50,000 witnesses to my victory. The green room was full of nervous teenagers and hovering parents. I sat alone in the corner, my phone buzzing with messages I didn't read. "Emma Chen?" I looked up. The competition director, Mr. Harrison, smiled at me. "We're so glad you're here. Your story has inspired so many people." "Thank you." "Your parents couldn't make it?" He glanced around like they might be hiding. They're at my sister's state finals, I said calmly. Different competition, same weekend, scheduling conflict. His smile faltered. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't be. I prefer it this way. He studied me for a moment, something like respect in his eyes. You're going to do great. I was the 8th performer out of 12. I watched the others from backstage. Technically proficient, well-trained, but safe. They played beautifully, but without fire, without hunger. They played like people who'd always had everything they needed. I played like someone who'd died and been reborn with nothing but skill and rage. When they called my name, I walked onto that stage with my head high. The piano gleamed under the lights, a Steinway concert grand that probably cost more than my parents' car. I sat, adjusted the bench, and placed my fingers on the keys. The audience was silent. I closed my eyes and thought about every moment of my life, both lives that had led me here. Every time I'd been overlooked. Every time I'd practiced alone in the dark. Every time I'd watched Madison get applause while I got nothing. Every moment of erasure. I played Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor like I was painting my story in sound. The opening was deceptively simple, almost hesitant, like a child asking for attention. Then it built, grew darker, more complex, more demanding. The middle section was chaos and fury, my fingers flying over the keys so fast they blurred. The recapitulation was triumph, pure and clear and unstoppable. When I hit the final chord, the entire auditorium was silent. Then someone started clapping, then everyone. The applause crashed over me like a wave. I stood, bowed, and walked off stage with my heart racing. Incredible, Mr. Harrison breathed backstage. Emma, that was absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like it. I checked my phone. The live stream had jumped to 80,000 viewers. The comments were flying past too fast to read, but I caught glimpses. She's amazing. This is unbelievable. Her family should be ashamed. Where can I donate to her music education? I smiled. The deliberation took 2 hours. All 12 of us sat in the green room, pretending not to watch each other. Most of the other kids had their parents there, offering encouragement and snacks and reassurance. I sat alone and played solitaire on my phone. Finally, Mr. Harrison returned. We have the results. Please follow me to the stage. We lined up, all 12 of us, while the judges filed onto stage and the audience settled into their seats. The live stream was up to 100,000 viewers now. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it. Mom, Emma, please call us. Dad, Sport, we're watching the live stream. You were amazing. Madison, Emma, you're so talented. I'm so proud. I turned it off. In third place, the head judge announced, playing Liszt's La Campanella from Seattle, Washington, Michael Zhang. Applause. Michael walked forward, beaming, and accepted his medal. In second place, playing Beethoven's Pathétique Sonata from New York City, Sarah Martinez. More applause. Sarah looked disappointed but smiled for the cameras. And our national youth piano champion, displaying unprecedented technical mastery and emotional depth, playing Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor, Emma Chen of Riverside, California. The applause was deafening. I walked forward in a daze. The medal was heavy around my neck. The trophy was crystal and gold, taller than my forearm with my name engraved on it already. The head judge shook my hand, her eyes kind. You have a remarkable gift, she said quietly. Don't let anyone ever make you forget that. I won't, I promised. The press conference afterward was surreal. Journalists asked about my training, my inspiration, my family. I understand your family couldn't be here today, one reporter said. How does that feel? I looked directly at the camera, directly at the 120,000 people watching. My family made a choice, I said clearly. They chose my sister's state-level talent show over my nationals. They chose her potential over my proven success. They chose to ignore me for 16 years while they poured everything into her. And honestly, I'm glad they're not here. I don't want to share this victory with people who never believed I could achieve it. This is mine. I built this alone, and I won it alone, and that makes it so much sweeter. The reporter's eyes widened. Camera flashes exploded. Do you have any message for your family? Another asked. I smiled. Yes. I forgive them for underestimating me, but I'll never forget it. The clip went mega viral. By the time I got back to the hotel that night, it had been viewed 2 million times. By Sunday morning, when I flew home, it was up to 5 million. The hashtag #EmmaCheen was trending. My family's social media accounts were being bombarded. Mom had deleted hers. Dad had made his private. Madison had posted a tearful apology video that only made things worse. "I didn't know," she sobbed to the camera. "I swear I didn't know Emma was this talented. I love my sister. Our family loves her. This is all a misunderstanding." The comments eviscerated her. How do you not know your sister is talented? 16 years is not a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is thinking you deserve sympathy. I didn't watch it. I was too busy fielding offers. Juilliard wanted to meet with me. Curtis Institute sent a full scholarship offer. 3 different agents wanted to represent me. Mrs. Chen was getting calls from major music publications wanting to profile her as my teacher, and the money. Oh, the money! My crypto investments had paid off spectacularly. I now had $200,000 in my account. But the competition winnings were $25,000, plus a recording contract with a major classical label, plus endorsement deals with piano manufacturers, plus a GoFundMe some fan had started that had raised $50,000 for my continued education and emancipation from her neglectful family. I was 16 years old and financially independent. I was 16 years old and famous. I was 16 years old and finally visible. Madison placed 7th at state finals. Not 5th, like in my first life, 7th, because she'd spent the entire competition distracted, her phone blowing up with notifications about me. Because the judges had seen the viral videos and recognized our last name. Because she'd cracked under the pressure of knowing that while she was playing for a local audience of 200 people, I was winning nationals in front of 100,000 viewers. She played terribly, missed notes, lost her place, had to restart twice. Mom and Dad sat in the audience and watched their golden child fall apart while their other daughter, the invisible one, was trending worldwide. When they got home Sunday night, I was sitting in the living room, my trophy on the coffee table, my medal around my neck, Mrs. Chen beside me. "We need to talk," Mom said, her eyes red from crying. "No," I said calmly. "We don't. Mrs. Chen is here as my witness. I'm emancipating myself. I've already filed the paperwork. I have legal representation, pro bono, thanks to all the lawyers who reached out after my interview. I have financial independence, and I have documentation of 16 years of educational neglect." Educational neglect? Dad's face went purple. "We never neglected you. You threw away my music school acceptance letters without telling me. You refused to pay for lessons while funding Madison's extensive training. You prevented me from attending a competition that was crucial to my development. You consistently prioritized her needs over mine to such an extent that I had to teach myself piano from YouTube videos. I kept my voice level. I have therapists willing to testify. I have teachers willing to testify. I have 3 months of documentation showing that you didn't know I was competing at the national level because you never asked about my life. We made mistakes," Mom whispered, "but we love you. We're your parents." "You're Madison's parents," I corrected gently. "I raised myself, and now I'm choosing my own path." "You can't do this," Dad said. "You're 16. You're a child. I'm a national champion with a recording contract and multiple scholarship offers. I'm more financially stable than you are. And I'm done being invisible in my own family." Mrs. Chen squeezed my hand. "Emma will be staying with me until she leaves for Juilliard this fall. I've already prepared a room for her." "Juilliard?" Madison gasped from the doorway. "You got into Juilliard?" "Full scholarship," I said. "Early admission. They waived the age requirement. I start in September." The room was silent. "Madison," I said, looking at my sister, "you're going to be fine. You're a good violinist. You'll go to a good school, have a good career. You'll be happy. But you were never going to be great, and our parents destroyed my childhood trying to make you something you're not." "That's cruel," Mom sobbed. "It's honest. And maybe if you'd been honest with yourselves, if you'd seen both your daughters instead of just one, we wouldn't be here." I stood, Mrs. Chen rising with me. "I'll be back next week for my things. The emancipation hearing is in 2 weeks. Don't contest it. You'll lose. And the publicity will be even worse than it already is. Emma, please. Goodbye, Mom." Mrs. Chen and I walked out, Behind us, I heard Madison's sobs and my mother's frantic whispers and my father's angry denials. I didn't look back. The epilogue of my story took 2 years to fully unfold, but every moment was sweeter than I'd imagined. The emancipation went through without a fight. My parents' lawyer took one look at the evidence and advised them to consent. The media coverage was brutal. Parents lose daughter after years of favoritism was the kindest headline. I moved in with Mrs. Chen and spent the summer preparing for Juilliard. She became more than my teacher. She became the mother I should have had. We practiced together every day, cooked dinner together every night, and she told me stories about my grandmother. How proud she'd been of me. How she'd known I was special. She made me promise to watch out for you, Mrs. Chen told me one evening. She knew your parents were blind. She just died before she could do anything about it. Juilliard was everything I'd dreamed. I was the youngest student in my class, but I was also the most driven. I practiced 8 hours a day. I performed in showcases. I networked with professors and guest artists. I built the career I'd been denied in my first life. My recording contract resulted in an album that went platinum in the classical music world, a rare achievement. Emma Chen, Rebirth, I called it, and the title track was my own composition, a piece that told the story of dying and being given a second chance. Critics called it hauntingly mature for such a young artist. If they only knew, Madison ended up at a small liberal arts college with a decent music program. She did fine, good grades, some local performances. We didn't speak for the first year, then she sent me an email. I'm in therapy, it read, learning about family dynamics and parentification and golden child syndrome. I'm starting to understand what happened to you. What they did to both of us, really. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I'm sorry. I'm really, truly sorry. I wish I'd been a better sister. I wish I'd seen you. I didn't respond immediately. I let it sit for a week, thinking about the Madison I'd known in my first life. The one who'd been perfectly pleasant but fundamentally indifferent to my existence. And the Madison I'd known in this life, the one who'd been shocked to discover I was a person with dreams and talents. Finally, I wrote back, I appreciate your apology. I'm glad you're in therapy. Maybe someday we can have a relationship, but it won't be the one we had before. I'm not your support system anymore. I'm not your shadow. If we're going to be sisters, it has to be as equals. She wrote back immediately, I understand, equals. I'd like that. We met for coffee 6 months later. It was awkward and painful and honest. She told me about the pressure she'd felt, the way our parents' expectations had crushed her. I told her about the loneliness, the invisibility, the way I'd had to become two people to survive. I'll never forgive them, I said. You know that, right? I don't think I will either, she admitted. They destroyed both of us in different ways. We weren't close, but we were civil. It was more than I'd hoped for. My parents tried to rebuild bridges over the years. Mom sent cards on my birthday that I didn't open. Dad showed up at one of my performances at Carnegie Hall when I was 18. I had security escort him out. They're trying, Mrs. Chen said gently. They're trying now that I'm successful, I corrected. Now that it reflects well on them. When I needed them to try, they couldn't be bothered. She didn't argue. When I was 19, I won the International Chopin competition in Warsaw, the youngest American to ever place first. The prize was $50,000 in global recognition. The media coverage included a retrospective of my rise to fame, complete with clips from my nationals interview where I'd called out my family. Emma Chen overcame incredible odds, one article read. Neglected by her family and forced to forge her own path, she has become one of the most celebrated young pianists of her generation. My parents issued a statement through a PR firm they'd clearly paid a lot of money. We are proud of our daughter Emma's accomplishments and regret that misunderstandings in the past created distance between us. Misunderstandings. I laughed until I cried when I read that. By the time I was 21, I had everything I dreamed of in my first life. I was performing with major orchestras. I had endorsement deals. I was teaching master classes. I had investments and properties and more money than I could spend. But more than that, I had peace. I'd go to sleep in my Manhattan apartment, my walls covered with posters from my performances, and I'd think about 16-year-old me taking that Uber to regionals, about the choice I'd made to fight instead of fade, about the second chance I'd been given and how completely I'd seized it. Sometimes I wondered what the universe had been thinking, sending me back. What cosmic dice had rolled to give me this gift. But mostly, I just felt grateful. I played a concert at the Kennedy Center for my 22nd birthday, a full recital, in the same venue where I'd won nationals 6 years earlier. Mrs. Chen sat in the front row, her eyes shining with pride. My parents didn't come. They'd finally gotten the message. Madison did, though. She brought her girlfriend, a cellist she'd met in college. After the performance, we had dinner together, and it was almost comfortable. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "The way it all happened? The public nature of it?" I thought about it. About the viral videos and the media frenzy and the hashtags. About the way I'd burned down my family's reputation to rise from the ashes. "No," I said finally. "They made me invisible for 16 years. I made sure the whole world could see me. That seems fair." She nodded slowly. "I think Grandma would be proud of you." I know she would. That night, alone in my apartment, I sat at my piano, a Steinway Model D, the same make I'd played at nationals, and let my fingers drift over the keys. I played Chopin's Ballad No. 1 in G minor, the piece that had changed my life, but this time I played it differently. Not with rage or hunger, or the desperate need to be seen. I played it with joy. Because I'd won. Not just the competition, not just the career, not just the recognition. I'd won my life back. In my first life, I'd been Emma the invisible, Emma the overlooked, Emma the shadow sister. I'd died at 34, full of regrets and what-ifs. In this life, I was Emma Chen, National Youth Piano Champion, Chopin competition winner, rising star of classical music. I was Emma who'd taken a second chance and built an empire from nothing. I was Emma who'd been chosen last and won anyway. And in the quiet of my Manhattan apartment, surrounded by proof of my accomplishments, playing the piano with fingers that had practiced on broken keys in a basement, I finally felt like I was enough. The last note faded into silence. I smiled. I'd made it. They'd chosen her talent show over mine. After Rebirth, they'd learned that I'd won nationals, and then they'd watched as I won everything else. My victory was complete, my revenge fulfilled, and my life, finally, beautifully, my own.